In this tabletop review, I'm going to be taking a look at a Birchwood KC product. This is their solid film lubricant touch-up pen. Previously I've reviewed a similar touch-up pen which was just a paint pen. This one is a little bit different since it's a solid film lubricant touch-up pen. The they call it a solid film lubricant, but it's also referred to as a dry film lube or dry film lubricant. That material is Mil-Spec, and you will find it on military grade weapons, primarily on the inside of the upper receiver and on the inside of the buffer tube. And if you buy a product such as Spike's Tactical Buffer Tube, which has a dry film lube on the inside of the buffer tube, after a while you'll see that the dry film lube will wear off or will get scratched up and so on. Same with your upper receiver. This particular touch-up pin allows you to touch up those areas that get worn over time. So let's see what Birchwood KC has to say about this. They state right off the bat that the performance of this lubricant meets Mil-Spec requirements. It's a semi-permanent lacquer-like coating that contains molybdenum disulfide, or MOLY for short. It provides corrosion inhibiting pigments onto the surface. It air dries, preventing corrosion, galling, seizing, fretting, and so on. It's a low friction coating that it exhibits long wear life when operated at minus 320 degrees Fahrenheit to plus 300 degrees Fahrenheit. It is for internal firearm application only. This tube runs about $10. So what are you going to use this pen for, this touch-up solid film lubricant pen for? If you have an upper receiver that doesn't have a dry film lube applied to it, you can use this to apply the dry film lube. Not going to be so easy on a buffer tube. You're not going to be able to really get this pen all the way down into a buffer tube, so you're probably going to have to either live with what you have or get a buffer tube that already has a dry film lube applied to it. Where else can you use this? Your charging handle. You can apply this to your charging handle. You can also apply it if you have like a phosphate bolt carrier group. You can apply it to the outside of the bolt carrier. You can apply it to the bolt. This is not a replacement for, say, a CLP or any other type of oil-based lubricant. It's to work in conjunction with that. So this particular package pretty much says the same thing I already read to you. Let's open this, take a look at it. The reason I mentioned that you probably wouldn't be able to get anywhere using this on a buffer tube is this is one of those types of paint pens that you got to do a bit of shaking, and it has one of these tips that you have to push down on to get the material flowing and into the porous of the tip, and you basically rub it on like so. So you're not really going to be able to get this down into a buffer tube per se. I have my upper receiver here. This particular upper receiver, which is a PSA branded upper receiver, I don't know who actually makes it, but it does have a dry film lube on it. The easiest way to tell if you have a dry film lube is the dry film lube is going to be kind of a grayish in color in comparison to your outside finish. So it's hard for me to tell you every manufacturer that applies dry film lube. If it's a true Mil-Spec component, it'll have a dry film lube on the inside, but there's a lot of them out there that don't. You could use this pen to do touch-ups. You can see I can get this in pretty much all around up in here. So if I had scratches, or if this was one of those types of upper receivers that didn't have a dry film lube installed by the manufacturer, I could be able to get it in pretty much all of the spots pretty easily. So let me go ahead and get something so we can test this. Okay, I went ahead and just grabbed a black Allen key here so we can test this. I didn't have a charging handle or anything like that. You would shake this like so, and you would use a piece of cardboard or something, press down on the tip, get the dry film lube flowing into the tip. You can see that I've got some of it coming out now. And we would just basically apply it like so, just like we're painting. And it is a dark gray in color, and this is just how we would apply it. And then of course when you're done, make sure you put that cap back on so it doesn't dry out, because you just spent $10 on this. So that's how you would apply it, and you would let it dry, air dry, allow to dry for 6 hours at 70 degrees, 50% relative humidity before putting into service. Clean up with solvents and or physical removal. I guess physical removal would be a file or sandpaper, maybe a Scotch-Brite pad. Do not store above 100 degrees. Although, let's see, avoid contact with eyes, do not ingest, use in a well-ventilated area. This stuff stinks really bad, just as bad as lacquer paint or enamel paint. And so use it in a well-ventilated area. So that is pretty much the solid film lubricant touch-up pen made by Birchwood Casey. This is a great addition to your tool bag for working on your firearms and applying dry film lube to certain other parts of your firearm that may not originally come with it.